A true story, just one of many I have witnessed in my 30 years in Pattaya, Thailand. This is about a petty criminal from Manchester in the UK that had to escape from the country after being caught smuggling drugs. Pattaya is the party city that attracts many of the world's criminal elements from many countries. Many who arrive here as criminals try to escape the law. In many cases, these people are pure evil, adequately demonstrated that they are involved in drug supply. They do not care in the slightest about the lives they destroy. They are totally beyond sorting their own lives out. They have no human dignity and can still cause absolute misery to unsuspecting women and men that are unfortunate in meeting up with them. This story is about one such person, demonstrated how he could seriously degrade people and think nothing of it. In this video we tell the story of how this individual came to Thailand and thought that he could continue to control people and wreck their lives. The man involved in this video was a hardened criminal who had already been to prison for various violent crimes. He was employed in the UK by a removals company that had major contracts moving families to and from various locations in Europe. The company had some corrupt senior managers, and several of the crews who travelled with the trucks were all functional in a major drug supply network. They would pick up a variety of banned drugs from Holland or Germany. In the UK, these drugs would feed the addicts both in Manchester and Liverpool. This man, named Steve, had enjoyed regular trips to Pattaya, where he would party hard with drugs, alcohol and girls. This is the story. February 2010, and on a return trip from Germany, their luck began to run out. Arriving in Dover, it seemed like Border Force was actually waiting for them to land. Stopped in the port, their wagon was given special treatment. First an X-ray, then a dedicated search by a specialised team who actually found the high-value shipment of various substances and pills that they were carrying. The team were arrested and charged, and Steve knew they were destined for a long sentence. Then a surprising event was when they first appeared in court. Expecting to be held in custody, awaiting the main trial, they were released on bail, and further, for some strange reason, they did not have their passports confiscated. This turn of events convinced Steve that he should take advantage and best to flee the country. The destination he had in mind, of course, was Pattaya. He had enough money to keep him going for a while, and thinking he might find some way of making more when he got to Thailand, he booked his ticket and fled the country. When Steve arrived in Pattaya, he booked himself into a cheap hotel. This was while he was looking for something a bit more long-term. His first week in town, he went back to party mode again. He liked Thai women and had already decided to try and find a lady that he could settle with. One evening in Pattaya Soi 8, he met a lady just 18 years old that was just started to work in a bar. And he was very attracted to this lady who was named Dao. Back in the UK, Steve was well known for his quick temper and the like of violence that he had. Happy to settle confrontation at any time with his fists. This was the aspect that would be his downfall in Thailand. In addition, he seemed to like to scare people and bring them down and degrade them. The reason that he did not have many friends is because of this. He was also very careful with money, to an extreme actually. This aspect made him start to control what he spent in his daily life. He quickly realized he was unlikely to get any work in Thailand, and to cross the legal bar and risk Thai prison was not really an option for even him. This did play on his mind for a while, and wondering how long he could survive in this new life with the money that he had. Then came a significant change in his good fortune. He used to drink in a bar that was very popular with the expat community. The owner of the bar was another UK guy, and he confided with Steve during an afternoon drinking session that he'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and only given a maximum of about 6 months to live. When he then went on to say that he was looking to sell the business, Steve took an immediate interest. This might be just what he's looking for, and started negotiating the purchase. His relationship with Dow was developing more and more, and he decided to make her part of his life. She moved in with him and he registered the bar in her name, and now the future was looking good. But it was not going to stay that way. He spent many of his days drinking at the bar. Being in the centre of town, he would take the opportunity to go out looking around other bars for other young ladies that might just take his eye and his money. Steve couldn't really control his ways, and he wasn't subject to change, so when he had too much to drink, his temper would be easily ignited. Customer care was never a consideration for Steve. Anyone complaining or making an adverse comment could easily get physically assaulted at the bar. This affected the regular customer, which soon started to move away, and of course the profits of the bar were significantly reduced. As part of the rental agreement Steve had with the owners, he was obligated to buy all his beers and spirits from them at a slightly inflated price. As you might imagine, this absolutely infuriated Steve and was getting worse as the bar profits were dropping. This was to lead to a series of events that was to hasten the downfall of this criminal from Manchester. Early mornings would see Steve at the local cash and carry. He would purchase half his required stock from there and then order the remainder from the rental company. He thought he was being clever, but actually very stupid if he thought that no one would notice. The rental company took their time to react. Every day they would monitor the custom in the bar because they knew roughly what was going on. And more importantly, after the bar had closed and only the security staff were there, they would go to the bar and make a note of the number of empty bottles. It was a Sunday evening and the bar was busy. Steve was sitting at the bar and two Thai men came in to see him. Steve was pretty drunk. The two Thai men were from the rental company and they presented Steve with the facts as they knew them. Steve, being in this inebriated condition, exploded right away and lashing out at both these men. Picking up a beer bottle from the bar, he gave them both serious injuries. But not known to Steve, one of these men off to the hospital was a senior police officer also. Others in the bar, particularly the staff, they knew who he was and advised Steve that he needed to get out of the bar quickly. So Steve panicked and he ran for home. And when he entered his home, Dow was waiting. Someone had phoned her. She told Steve he would have to get away from Pattaya and maybe even get out of Thailand quickly. Once again, he was on the run. He purchased an air ticket for Manchester and departed Thailand the following evening. Also at this time, I should mention, Dow had a 6-month-old son by Steve. Dow was left to run the bar and try to placate the rental company. Her mother came from the north of Thailand to help her manage, but Dow was forced to spend many hours at the bar, and a few of the locals started to gain an interest in her physically. One particular guy that was very sympathetic to her situation succeeded in enticing Dow into a short-term relationship. This ended when Steve returned after 5 weeks of absence. On his return and when he got back to Pattaya, things had quietened quite a lot. But to end all the problems, it cost Steve a lot of money, having to give out big handouts to various people just to make sure that nothing was going to come back and bite him. This ended the matter. But Steve returned to his daily drinking sprees and looked for females to suit his needs. Unfortunately, one of the guys that had been interested in setting up a relationship with Dow in Steve's absence had decided he was going to inform on her about her fleeting relationship. When Steve heard, as you might imagine, he was absolutely infuriated and went berserk. Confronting Dow, she actually admitted what had happened, and she was immediately physically abused very, very badly. 2 days after this assault, Steve apologized and said he understood the reasons why, and he wanted them to go away for a weekend together as a family, just to try and get back together and to make amends. So he bought tickets for them to fly down to Hong Kong, a place he knew that Dow had always wanted to visit. Well, they arrived in Hong Kong on a Friday afternoon, and Steve got up early the following Saturday morning and told Dow he wanted to go for a short walk to have a look around the neighbourhood, and he would be back in time for breakfast. On leaving the hotel, he waved down a taxi and asked him to take him to the airport. In his pocket, he had all the family passports, all the money they had there. He had Dow's purse, ID card and cell phone, and he was on his way back to Pattaya, alone. Steve had still returned, and she was getting worried. Maybe he had been in an accident and was now in hospital. Then what could she do? She had no food, but she did have some snacks for her son. At 10:30 there was a knock at the door. Now she did start to panic. Was this bad news to tell her about something that had happened to Steve? She opened the door with dread, but it was one of the hotel staff asking her what time she was going to check out. Checking out, she thought? No, we're not checking out. We are staying 3 nights. The maid looked at her most strangely and said, well, there must be some mistake, and that she would check with the reception. Dow closed the door. She was now really worried. What was happening? A few minutes later, the room telephone rang. It was the reception telling her that she was indeed only booked for 1 night, and checkout was 1100. A sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, she hung up the phone. Now she knew there was a problem. She went to her travel bag, and checking it, she saw all her personal things had gone. She had nothing. But she understood immediately now what Steve had done. She took her son down to reception and asked if she could speak with the manager. The manager called the police, and with a copy of Steve's passport, the police contacted the airport. The airport confirmed that Steve had departed Hong Kong for Thailand on a Thai Airways flight. She was really distraught now, but the hotel manager gave her use of a telephone, and she rang her family in Thailand. And then she also contacted the Thai consulate in Hong Kong, and with a little luck and a lot of help, she obtained emergency travel documents and tickets for an evening flight back to Thailand. Just after 3 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, Steve arrived back at his bar in Pattaya. He was very pleased with himself. In his twisted mind, he had got revenge for Dow's affair. But the job was not finished. He was waiting for the other party, the guy who had been involved. He was actually contemplating how he could deal with this man in the worst possible way. He wanted him dead, but not a quick death, a very slow and painful one. How to do this was eating away at his thoughts, and strangely enough, the welfare of his wife or son did not even cross his mind. After a few drinks, he was actually telling people what he had done that morning, deserting his family in Hong Kong, leaving them abandoned. Fair to say that very few stayed in the bar after they were told. Once again, he set his priorities to alcohol and finding a lady for the evening. He was certainly not aware that the retribution for what he had done was coming fairly swiftly. By the end of the evening the story had got round and many people were really upset about what had happened. So much so that as Steve left the bar, he met two of the motorcycle taxi drivers that were normally stationed very close to where the bar was. What Steve did not see was that they were both carrying baseball bats. Pushing him into an alleyway, they let Steve know in no uncertain way what they thought about his moral ethics. They also warned him that if they ever saw him in the bar again, the exercise would be repeated, but maybe slightly more seriously. However, they did phone an ambulance for him before they departed. Consequently, Steve spent 3 weeks in hospital and another 2 weeks in a safe location, as he considered it, in Bangkok, before he was fit enough to get on a plane to leave Thailand for the UK. Dao knew he was in hospital but never visited him. She did drop a suitcase there with his clothes and documents, and 3 months later she sold the bar for several million Thai baht and moved back up country to join her family. Here in Pattaya things are changing quite a lot actually, but unfortunately, although one despicable character has been taken out of Pattaya, there are many others of the same ilk that are coming in and taking his place. Not only from the UK but from other countries. The lure of sun, sea, sex, alcohol and drugs entice a lot of undesirables to visit Pattaya. I have other stories to come, and if you're interested then follow me. Thank you for watching and take care. Bye for now.